Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of TezTalks Radio with myself, Marissa Trew, and my co-host Stu Elmes. Hey, Stu.
Hi, everybody.
So we have an extremely exciting episode planned for today where we're joined by someone who needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. He is the iconic musician behind Linkin Park and Fort Minor, and more recently, he's a crypto art creator. He's none other than Mike Shinoda. So welcome, Mike. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks very much for having me.
So let's kick off the discussion with just a little bit of a backgrounder. How has the last year been for you?
I mean, I've been like at home the whole time. And I think like it's when quarantine kind of started in LA, I got on Twitch and I was kind of just like, it was partially to like connect with fans, partially to just like put like an anchor in my day to have something that I knew the weekdays from the weekends, and I did it every morning. And since then I've kind of like, I did it more heavily and then I scaled it back. But one thing that it did kind of lead into is a very tight community of people. And when I started getting, I mean, since I'm talking to you guys, when I started getting into NFTs, I leaned on that community a little bit, just wondering if anybody in the community was already doing it or more interested. And it was actually the community that led me to Tezos.
Nice. Okay, so then let's get into your crypto journey in general. So where did it all start? Like, what was the first light bulb moment that kind of nudged you into this rabbit hole?
I was already doing, like, I owned a little bit of crypto from a few years back. It wasn't anything substantial or life-changing. I think the thing about this space that is notable is that I personally had been investing in a few like angel investing in a few different things, and then because that was going pretty well, the band Linkin Park started doing it as well. We kind of organized like a little fund, and since we had a fund, we were getting pitches from all kinds of different founders, and the founders, I mean, we're talking about 2000 or like, I don't know, 2012ish, 2000, between 12 and 15. And then we were getting a lot of like pitches from different founders, and people kept coming to us with ideas about digital collectibles. And I always tell people, like, if there's one thing I'm probably not going to be into, it's music related investments. Like, I've seen so many things, and the bar is just very high for anything related to that. And so people kept coming to us with like music related digital collectibles, and I was like, so boring. I've seen every one of these. They're all the same. They're so niche. Nobody, like, the world isn't there yet. Maybe it will be at some point. And I kind of forgot about it for a while. And then I think towards the end of the last year, and especially the beginning of this year, obviously there was a huge surge in NFTs, and those, I made the connection that those are the thing that was being pitched years ago that didn't seem viable then and is starting to seem viable now. And obviously we all kind of like became aware when with things like the Beeple drop and so on. I got very interested in it for a moment. I minted a few things on Zora. I did a collaboration with Esteban Diacono on Nifty Gateway. I did a really fun piece on async art, and all of those are obviously Ethereum blockchain. And then around that time, like, there was a rush of all these different musicians and music-based NFTs, and from Kings of Leon to like Paris Hilton and stuff. And I was just like, this is getting crazy, and I backed way out. Like, I didn't want to be like caught up in the mad dash to participate. So I backed out a little bit, and then once the dust settled there, I kind of started just quietly collecting a few things. I was collecting a little bit during the time, but I got back in kind of once the dust settled.
I think it's super interesting that you saw the hype building and that was your point at which you thought, no, we're going to retreat for a while, because I think that's obviously naturally the point where everyone thinks we got to get in quick, otherwise we're going to miss the boat. But you have been fairly big on talking about the merits of NFTs and digital art. Like I'm aware you own a Bored Ape, you own a Tezos, you started minting your own artwork. So I kind of want to understand what it was about those specific pieces or the NFTs that you do own that attracted you to them, and why you thought those are more the worthwhile ones as compared with some of the other ones that have been hyped.
Yeah, I mean, I've collected physical art for I don't know, like I think I bought my first like I don't know, piece of art that I was like really like, oh my gosh, I'm buying like an expensive like piece of art, and it could have been like a couple $1,000s or something. Towards the beginning of when Linkin Park had started taking off, and we were starting to be able to afford that type of thing. And keep in mind, like when it comes to being a band, like the money actually comes pretty slowly. Like they call it like their manager would always say like the money's stuck in the pipeline. Like it takes a while. Um,
Yeah.
but I went to school for illustration. Like that's what I always thought I was going to do for a living. I thought I would draw and paint and I wanted to do album covers. I wanted to do movie posters. I wanted to do things like that. And when the band took off, it was really just like a winning lottery ticket. Like it's like how would I not just see this all the way through? And I put my artistic it wasn't I shouldn't say I put my art career on the back burner, because there were a lot of opportunities for me to like explore like visual art with the band, from helping design our album covers and logos and merchandise, and even like set stuff that would go on the stage. I got like involved with those to varying degrees, but definitely as I started to collect, if we fast forward to like this year, as I started to collect things, I do just naturally I am naturally drawn to illustration. So you mentioned apes, you mentioned Tezos, like things that are drawn that way, whether it's almost like comic or anime ish. Those do just like, I don't know, they just strike a chord with me a lot of times. So if you look at the stuff that I've collected, you could go to my profile on like Hen or on object.com, and from De La Crace to what else, like I've got to kind of look. There's an artist named Arya Mularama who
Oh
actually
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sent me a piece, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't like some of the pieces that I've got. I was gifted, and I think they're so cool. Yeah, so Project Neon, like a bunch of things like that are illustrative.
Cool.
Nice. Okay.
I think it's really interesting to hear the perspective of somebody who has made art at a very successful level in the sort of traditional model, about as successfully as an artist can. When you look at the NFT model, do you think that it's a better model for artists?
Oh, well, there's pros and cons, and there are one thing that is very efficient about NFTs in general, and I would say Tezos does it very well, or it's built very well to do this, is to optimize the supporting like income for a young artist or an upstart artist, right? Like if you have very little money to like start your music or art career, you need a transactions to be like on the lower side, and to not like be wasting a lot of money on gas. I know most artists that I talk to care about the environmental ramifications of minting, so that's another big plus. I think those were the reasons why my community on Twitch and eventually my Discord were like kind of championing heading over to or minting things on Hen.
And from the perspective of an art consumer, what are the benefits there?
Well, I think if I actually, maybe I didn't quite like get to the point with what I was just saying, because I was thinking, I guess what I'm thinking is like, even in music, like if you're making songs and putting them up on SoundCloud or Bandcamp or whatever, like a major label isn't going to be interested in participating in like, you know, your like project until you reach a certain capacity, right? Like until you reach a certain like fan base. And so with that said, up until that point, you really want to be able to like maximize the income from each little release, because you know, if you've only made, if you're not talking about streaming 1,000,000 times, you're looking at streaming 1,000 times. Like maybe that's your first big goal. It's like, I want, you know, this song to get 1,000 streams on whatever. And if those streams come with an income, then you want to like really maximize that. And hopefully you can get to a point where something kind of goes viral or becomes popular, and then then you'll have the power and the almost like the option. Like if you ever get to the point where a major label does come to you and say, "Oh, we want to, you know, participate. We want to sign you." Like you want to be big enough and be making enough to sustain your career that their offer is like arguably like not a good idea. Like you're successful enough on your own. And I think that's something that like blockchain, like NFT releases and blockchain related releases can be an avenue where that can start to happen. I mean, I don't think that, you know, clearly the infrastructure isn't quite built out yet. We're as everybody says, we are so early. But yeah, I do feel like there's a lot of opportunities for people to get creative with the way they express themselves visually and musically, and the way they present that to fans. I mean, in a way that the fans can support the art.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. I think it's a very important point that you're touching upon, because it's essentially the principle that this sort of technology shifts the power balance towards the creator in a way that hasn't existed since, I don't know, forever. Um, and on the basis that in being able to fund their work, even on a small community scale, it means that if there ever were, say, a record label to come in and make a proposal, this artist is empowered to say no if the terms actually don't necessarily meet their specifications, or they won't take it as a compromise or as a means to kind of blow up farther down the line. And I think that's where, you know, in the traditional world, we have things like platforms like Patreon, right? Where there is an appetite amongst people, amongst fan bases, to support the artists and the creators that you love and that you follow, even if, you know, on a, you know, a $5 basis a month. So the appetite is there and the practice of that is building. But I think what NFTs have done is basically accelerate that and also make it the center point of the conversation. So, I mean, we've dug into the sort of impact that this is going to have on potentially the music industry and the creative industry as a whole. But then going back to what Stu was mentioning about the consumer side, what is it that you think, like, what is it about NFTs that you think people find so exciting? Like, how are we really going to drill down this notion of what the value of an NFT is? Because at the end of the day, digital ownership is a very new concept. People don't really, or people are still adjusting to the idea of paying for something that was free to consume before on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like you're owning. If you really open it up to like let's look at like art blocks. Let's look at apes. Let's look at um, I mean, you can keep going. The idea of owning a piece of this moment in history is valuable, right? So hence punks, right? Like that what's your and autoglyphs, by the way. So like these are all firsts. And they're all a moment in time. Beyond that, though, you know, because it is so frothy and there's so much stuff out there, I think the thing to me that exists on the next layer down is that you're what I want to offer somebody if I'm going to make an NFT, which by the way, I'm right now I've been most of my stuff is experimental in terms of like, edition size or price, or like the other day I was doing some experiments with, I've given things away for free. I've given stuff to people and told them they need to list it for this specific high price. I told them list it for 450 Tez, and everybody who is on board with this idea, that's what you listed at. And we had some people that deviated, and anybody who didn't deviate, I then gave them a surprise NFT. So all the people who listed under 450 were like, they basically screwed up. But these are all little games that I'll play to experiment with the nature of the fan base, because it's all new. And I think like maybe something that for those of us that have been following this all year, one of the things that occurred to us very early was, oh, this is all about like price discovery. This is like, we're going to figure out how much something is worth in this new economy. The thing about that I think is so fascinating is that we've been basically taught for the last few years, for many years, that things that we're making aren't worth anything. Like, oh, your photos that you take, like you just post those on Instagram, and your payment is you get a lot of followers, but you didn't make money off those. Instagram made money off those. Like they're monetizing you. And the dynamic shift that happens is, okay, I'm going to put this photo that I would have put over there, I'm going to put it up on as an NFT to this community. And we're going to see, based on how I put it up, we're going to see what it's really worth. I've had friends put up things that my friend Bobby from the Hundreds, he put up essays, and he would normally just put his essays up on his blog. I think he actually did that as well, but he minted them as NFTs, and fans paid thousands of dollars for his blog posts that he would have otherwise just given away or just put up for information, right? And the idea then that those things they have a lot more value than we're used to is the part that I think that I think we are all drawn to. It's like, oh, then what is my thing that I've been giving away worth?
Well, it's your time and your energy, and that has to have value, right?
I mean, beyond the time and energy, it is time and it's energy. It's also it's also community. It's also like reputation. Like you can screw up your reputation by not being considerate about the people who have already bought your stuff. I'm in a couple of like play to earn games where I'm watching the development team just hit home run after home run in some cases, and in other cases just kind of flounder with their roadmap. Because there's not a lot of super clear ways to do things at this point. Like there are some things you can do that other people have done that have worked, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So the experimentation and the everybody's like breaking new ground and trying new things. I think it's a very exciting place to be.
Well, it gives you sort of an opportunity to put things out there while still sort of retaining some kind of control over it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's you can set your royalties. You can, you're in control of your drop structure, right? Like, I've done ones where I really like hyped it up to the moment that it happened, and I've done other ones that were shock ones. I've done other ones where I basically like let it be an inside conversation and let it all sell out that way, and then I told everybody else it was gone. Like, there's lots of ways you can like play with the structure of it.
Yeah, I think people are getting used to the idea that it's not necessarily just, I guess, in business terms, a revenue generating opportunity, but it's also a marketing one as well. Like you're using these different drop tactics, as it were, to create different kinds of buzz around your community. And I think that's another way where you kind of capture a kind of attention that probably I mean, obviously existed before, but wouldn't manifest in the same ways. And I think it's interesting that you say that there's sort of like there's sorts of two sides to this, in that it's it gives the control to the creators, but then also there's the community aspect in terms of understanding like their appetite for it. But then it makes me wonder what sort of, how do I put this, reservations people might have, because in my mind there's one aspect where we're seeing the value of your work as you put it online. So if I were to take a really, what I consider to be a really stunning photograph, and I mint it as an NFT, and I kind of want to see if someone would be willing to buy it as an art piece. The other side of it is, am I just going to look at everything I create as a money-making opportunity? Is it just going to become kind of like another, I don't know, money-making vehicle where everyone's hell-bent on just trying to see how much hype and how much cash they can draw in from something they've created? Like, is that a world we want to see at the same time?
Well, that can't happen. I mean, because people will get brought down to earth, back to earth, like immediately, right? Like already you have like I'm sure all of us know people that wanted to dive in and had like dollar signs in their eyes, and then they realized that they don't have a consumer base. Like that's a reality, right? Not everything everybody makes is worth money. And also it's about building goodwill. So I'll tell you like a little bit about my journey so far, my plan going forward. Like I knew months ago that I wanted to do a larger scale drop of something that I found to be innovative, but I didn't know what that would look like. As I started to like dive into the community, when I made money from my experiments and the drops that I did, I put that money back into the community, and I bought more artwork by other people to signal to them that, number one, I'm not just taking, I'm giving too, and we're spreading it around. And I'm showing my taste and my like the things that I like by what I'm purchasing. The first piece that I put up on Hen, I put up for free. And I did that. One of the reasons why I did that is because I knew that probably half the people who were going to download it, it was going to be their first NFT. They were getting the education in the Discord channel, on the Discord server rather. It's discord.gg/Mike Shinoda. And they were, other fans were teaching them how to like get a wallet and put money in it and buy a thing. And then they basically went to my page and they got a thing for free. And the next thing they knew, other people were bidding on them for upwards of $2,000 US. I think it went past 3,000 at one point. So this thing they got for free all of a sudden was worth all this money. And they were like, oh my God, like, so this is NFTs? We were kind of like, no, not all the time. But to get that rush of like, oh, I own a digital item that's worth something. It's worth something because everyone who cares about the item agrees that it's worth X amount of dollars. And the next drop was less because it was the second. It was because I think that one had more additions. My future, that in the future, what I'd like to do, I'm planning that drop that I was saying. I had an idea for something that I wanted to do that might be innovative. I'm working on that right now. So I'm finally at a point where I have what I consider to be like, it's almost like doing an art show. Like you're gonna make a statement. You have a concept. People are gonna come into your art show. They're gonna experience your concept, and they get to leave and talk about it. And I'm in the development phase. Like probably it'll be ready this year. It'll be ready by the end of the year. So I'm very excited because I know that the community's there. I know that I've built this based on what I already understand about them. And I know that it's going to be the right kind of release, and it's going to be the right price point and so on.
I like the analogy of the art show a lot. And I'm, I talk to people about this stuff a lot, and one of the things you hear over and over and over is does it still have value if I can't hold it in my hand or hang it on my wall? What would you say to somebody who is hesitant about this type of asset because of that thinking?
Well, I mean, if you're talking to a young person, like the first thing you point their attention towards is like skins in video games. Like they'll buy skins and knowing that they're someday going to abandon that video game and the skins are going to, like, they spent $500 buying skins over a period of time with Fortnite, and then they eventually stopped playing Fortnite. Like, that doesn't bother young people. For older people, I think they have a harder time wrapping their head around it. And to me, it feels a lot like when, for older people, they remember when ATMs first were popularized, and you would hear like in my case, my mom saying, well, I'm not going to put my money in that box. Like, what if it doesn't register? I'm going to put $500 in there, and then like something's going to get screwed up and it's not going to register that it has my money. I'm just going to lose $500. I don't trust that. Eventually, like with crypto, you're going to get to the point where everybody realizes like, okay, it's like the money, the money goes in, it's in there. You can verify that it's in there. In terms of like the item though, just the other day, I think just yesterday, a pair of like Jordan sneakers that Michael Jordan wore in a game. He wore them in the game and he signed them, and they went up for auction and they got bought for thousands of dollars. For some reason, people are like, oh, okay, well, I own those Jordan sneakers. They're worth thousands of dollars, right? There's really no difference between the photo that you posted on your Instagram of those Jordan sneakers that you own and the image of my NFT that I own. Like, yes, you can like theoretically hold your Jordan sneakers, but like that doesn't do anything to the value of them. The value of them is exactly the same whether or not you can touch them. Some people buy these things and they never actually touch them. They put them in
they go in a glass case.
Yeah, whether it's in a box in your closet or it's in a box at the bank. Some people buy Pokemon cards that are worth thousands of dollars and they don't even touch them. They're in little plastic things and they go to a safe somewhere. It's like, I know that it's a physical thing, but it's like theoretically it's exactly the same as an NFT. Like, absolutely. It's just an item of value.
Yeah. No, it very much is basically, it's almost like a social agreement as to what the value of something is. And I completely love the analogy of like a limited edition physical item, the fact that there are Barbies that will never be played with, but are worth tens of thousands of dollars just because they are a very specific kind of Barbie. And I remember trading Pokemon cards and being willing to trade my lunch and 10 of mine for one specific limited edition version. Not that I was going to do anything useful if I did own that card, except for be really proud that I owned it. But I think the other amazing thing about NFTs is that it's almost like a digital artifact at this stage in time, because we are still relatively early in the market and we're dealing with the first early waves of enthusiasm. But in terms of it kind of being this embedded source of value, there's still a lot of work to be done. But one question that keeps coming up, because all of us are clearly fairly evangelical and fairly bullish on it, is what are the reservations that you have when it comes to this space? Like, what are the things where you think we need to solve, these problems before we can really make headway?
Yeah, they're pretty specific. The first one is security. I think that we can do better than, like right now, the point of failure is remembering your seed phrase. And if you lose that or whatever, you lose everything. Like that's got to get fixed. Cause that's that is the primary hurdle for new people showing up. The idea that someone could have all of these things of value and all this, whatever, money and items, and it could just go away or get stolen. And that's really scary for people. So that's going to stop a lot of people from coming in. I'd say the second thing that is really important to me is just keeping an eye on decentralization. So for people that are, kind of new to the space, I kind of I remind them that, like, all those things that you don't like about the way the internet is, like the things you don't like about your social media, the things you don't like about, companies like having and monetizing your information. Like they take your data and they use you as a product and they sell you to advertisers and so on. Like the idea of Web3 is really I wouldn't say a promise, but the idea that we can do better than that, and that old model, that most of us don't like that old model. Like the people who like that old model are the ones making billions of dollars off of it, and that's a very small percentage of people. So one of the things that goes along with this, at least at this moment, there's a since this future is unwritten at this moment, there's a possibility for us as like almost just like common people to rewrite some of the laws of the internet. So keep an eye on decentralization as you're talking about. Oh, I'm gonna mint an NFT. I'm collecting NFTs. I'm gonna make make my company a Web3 company, or I'm going to invest in the metaverse. All of these things and these buzzwords and things that people are integrating into their identities as like who you are in this next version of the internet. Like try and like compare that against the version that we had and see if there's a decentralized version of it that you can create that does better than what it was.
Well put.
I do want to say one other thing about that. I want to say one other thing about that, because every time I tell people this story, they're like, "What? Like that's exactly what it's all about." When we first on one of our albums, we were at the time the biggest social media company was Facebook. They just came out, new company, and then we built this really big audience on Facebook, and we were very early on Facebook. We were the biggest band. One of the biggest accounts on Facebook in as a company, as a platform, the entire platform. And then we've maintained a status as like one of the biggest bands on Facebook. And then back then it was like, we'd post something, our fans would all react and everyone would see it. And we toured for about a year, 18 months. And then we made a new album. And we sat down with management and we said, okay, like we're ready to start marketing the new album. Like, when are we going to announce it to the fans on Facebook? And they were like, oh, you guys don't know this, but Facebook changed its rules. Now you have to pay to talk to your fans. We're like, pay? Like, we brought all those people there. Yeah. They opted in. They want to hear from us. They said, yes, we're following you because any information, any news about Linkin Park, we want to hear it. Why would they stop us from letting them hear what we have to say? Like, a new album is the biggest thing that we can announce. And they're like, yeah, you got to pay for it. And we said, okay, fine. Like, how much could it be? They're like, it's going to cost the price of a Super Bowl ad to get one Facebook post that all of your fans see. And if you don't do that, then it's going to be between 10 and 20%. Actually, it ended up being closer to 15. So it'll be about 15% of your fans will see it. So 85% of your fans, unless you pay, 85% of fans will not see that you have a new album coming out. And that is the version of the internet that I don't like. I've lived through it. All of us have lived through it. We've been commodified, turned into, value, items of value in an ecosystem that we don't own.
Yeah. And where you can be censored.
Yes. Yeah. And through things like social tokens, DAOs, and NFTs to some degree, you can be a part of the ownership of that platform. You can have a stake in the thing that you're using.
So it's about being vigilant that doesn't creep over into the next iteration of this stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to like drag Nifty Gateway, but they did have a moment. They did have a moment, right? I was always I did one drop on Nifty and I haven't really gone back because they had a moment where some very notable NFT artists said, wait a minute, guys, like I own a bunch of nifty pieces that are worth a bunch of money and I can't get them out. Like I want to take them out of the nifty system, or I've made money in the nifty system and I want to pull it out. And Nifty was like, oh, we can't do that right now. And people freaked out, right? You saw some very big artists freak out. My understanding is they've rectified that to a large degree, but it did highlight the fact that they are not nearly as decentralized as many other places are.
Right. So it's basically users never ever want to be at the mercy of the platform creators again, basically. And I think
if you made a thing, you own the thing. If you bought a thing, you own the thing. Nobody else should be able to say like, well, you can have it, but we're going to charge you. Or you want people to see it? We're going to charge you. Like I worry about the Twitter says they're going to allow you to display your NFTs as your profile picture and have it verified with, a symbol. And I immediately was thinking like, how long until they charge you to do that? How long until they say, yeah, it's going to be just like a couple bucks for you to use your NFT as your profile picture? Because that's the type of thinking that goes on.
Yeah, because perhaps old school, still relatively within the last decade, platforms will see any kind of user engagement as another business opportunity. It's another monetizing opportunity. It's another way of trying to cash out on their user base, because at the end of the day, these tech companies were designed around a free and open platform and then finding interesting ways to monetize off of their user base, right? And I think your reference to DAOs and the users ultimately having a stake and a say in how these platforms evolve is a totally new concept to these platform creators, and one that they're probably going to have to wrap their heads around quickly if they're not sort of designing with Web 3.0 in mind, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I as a person who's invested in companies that have gone public, like that, when I found out that you could if you met a person, a founder or a company who's building a thing and you think it's great, and you could give them money to buy like a piece of ownership in it, and then when they make money, like you make money as a co-owner, and they're not big enough to be on the stock market. Like I was like, this is ideal. Like I want to be. I've met so many smart people that are making so many cool things, and I'd love to participate. Number one, I'd love to help them get to the next step, and I want to be in the mix. So that is something that as soon as I realized that was something that you could do, I started doing it. And now what's happening is that opportunity used to be closed to insiders. Like you had to know somebody to do that. But now it's not that way. Now it's for anybody. Like if you see a cool thing and you research, you meet a person on the internet, you say, oh, that person's making a cool product or has a cool idea, and through tokens, through a DAO, you can support that idea. It's almost like, it's basically like crowdfunding, except a lot of crowdfunding things are like oh, I'm going to put in $100 and you're going to send me a sleeping bag. Like this is not that. This is like literally you own a piece of the company, you own equity in the company that you can buy and sell at will. And I think that's fantastic. Like
it's a powerful idea.
It's the best. It's the best. I wonder if if I was 18 right now deciding what to do with my life, like the idea of ending up in a work for hire illustration or graphic design or whatever, that's where I wanted to go. Like the idea of that would just be so off-putting if the opportunities that exist right now were around back then.
I mean, couldn't have said it better myself, really. No, I think it's such an important point to also recognize, and I mean, we touched at a couple of points in this conversation, we've not really put a spotlight on it, is that this is very much something that this next generation, Gen Z, as it were, and Gen Alpha, being the ones after them, are really going to take in their stride. Like, this is going to be so native to them in a way that it's a default. While for us, I think many of us are still kind of wrapping our heads around the concept and then convincing ourselves as to why it's a compelling proposition.
Yeah.
While I think, I think the next generation of baby investors are going to be much savvier about what they want to see in the world and how they're going to finance it themselves, and how they're going to build very much like a world on their values and what they deem important, rather than kind of resting in the status quo and being like, well, if I want to interact with my friends, I have to be on TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat, etc. Like it's going to completely change how people evaluate what spaces they want to be in online, or the metaverse, as it were. So yeah, I think it's just the start, and it's really exciting, and kind of wish I was a kid now so I could be at the start of it instead.
Well, the good news about I've seen it does really lower or level the playing field. And as a person who, for many of us who are a little bit older and have been around the block, I think that some of the better projects that I've been watching lately have the kind of team that has that blend of has all the right chemistry. They've got younger and older people from different backgrounds, and oftentimes people from all over the world. They're not beholden to any region or time zone or currency or whatever. It's kind of just based on almost the dedication to the project and the creativity to come up with the great ideas and make it work. I know that's very abstract. One thing that has been really fun for me is that I've always loved video games. I don't play games that much on my Twitch stream, but I do play at home. I grew up playing Nintendo, and then now I'm what are my top games? I'm playing Valorant. I'm playing this game called Detroit Become Human, and also a couple of play to earn blockchain games. And this is with the blockchain games, the idea of saying, by playing this game, I own a piece of this game. Can you imagine being I play Fortnite, and therefore I own a piece of the company called Epic Games? That's something for young people. That's something for anybody, but especially people who play games a lot. That's going to change that's going to change everything. Because why, at a certain point, we all know that so many of the games are really so similar. And when you've got a choice between, 10 different battle royale games, but one of them is going to let you own a piece of the enterprise just because you're part of the community,
it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, man. You're you guys played Fortnite for a year and spent $1,000. I played this game over here for a year and I made $5. What the hell? Why would I play Fortnite? Watch, Fortnite's gonna enable.
I was just about to say, I was like,
I know that they're trying to be so many of these companies want to be metaverse companies where you can use the NFTs you buy in game. I'm so curious to see which ones are going to be the ones that really open the door wide and do it the right way. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I think gaming is going to be a whole other realm in terms of, even the ability to take characteristics or tokens from one game, transfer it to another within the same ecosystem, sort of thing, like interoperability, but between games, because they're all by, a similar developer, and keeping a token in that ecosystem, but across different aspects of it. So say you do really well in one game, but you're broke in the other, you can transfer that value across and keep playing. So
I would imagine the thing that's going to happen first, to me, if I were to guess, my guess is that the real winners in this space are going to be ones that are crypto native, blockchain native, because it'll be so hard for an established game to, unless they build a brand new game. If an established game builds a brand new blockchain game, that could absolutely work. But to take the existing game and adapt it, they're always going to be adapting incrementally, like by little bits towards a goal that's very far away, as opposed to a brand new game popping up in exactly the right spot and just having to pivot left or right to stay like a viable blockchain game. And the thing you're talking about, like that's that would be so exciting to people is, oh, I own an ape. I want to play as my ape in this, in this shooter, in this RPG. I want to go do a virtual chat in VR with people. I want to show up as my ape. Like whatever your NFTs are, whatever your things that you own, like I think we all can remember a thing that either a thing that we own that like was really signature or special to us. It's like that. What's the thing that you would like if you had if there's a fire at your house, would you have to go grab it? That type of thing. Like to be able to take that everywhere you go in your digital life, it could be really, I mean, I think that's going to be really fun. I think it's going to be like important at a certain level for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think in terms of the user experience, it's going to be really novel and it is going to be really exciting. And I agree with you in terms of the games that are really going to succeed in this space are probably the blockchain native games, but we are seeing traditional game developers start to invest in that space. For example, I think Ubisoft just invested a pretty decent chunk of money in Animoca Brands, so the blockchain gaming company. And obviously Ubisoft is a Tezos baker. It's great news for us too. So they're clearly thinking a little bit forward in terms of how are we going to stay relevant and how are we going to make our name in the space and without resting on the laurels of what we've already produced. And I think that's going to be that kind of thinking that takes existing companies forward rather than them kind of losing relevance altogether.
What's the biggest Tezos game?
What is the biggest Tezos game?
I don't know what it is. All the I was just thinking like all the stuff, all the games that I played are Ethereum.
Well, we've got Emergence coming.
Yeah. And there's also an NFT play to earn game, Dogami, that's being developed as well. So where you raise dogs and breed dogs.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll have them on this show telling us more about that too. But yeah, there's some games in development. I would say maybe there isn't one that's made real landfall just yet, but what's great is that I think the ecosystem's working on it, which is really exciting to see.
Mike, as we're getting towards the end here, is there anything you wanted to announce or tease or talk about before we shut her down?
Yeah, I mean, I as I kind of alluded to, I'm working on a project right now that'll be ready by the end of the year. As I have things to announce, I'm usually announcing them on my Discord first. So go to discord.gg/Mike Shinoda. I'm at Mike Shinoda on Twitter and on most platforms. So if you look for me on Object or Hen, that's where I can be found. And yeah, I'm excited about it. It's going to be, I haven't given away too many details about what this drop is. But I will tell you that it's the most important component of it is it's music related. I'll say it's a song, but it's much more than that. It's just that if I tell anybody, if I describe it any further at this point, people start to get the wrong idea. So I will tell you, it's the closest thing that you can think of as a song. So it's a song, but it's not a song.
It's a song,
maybe
but it's
tell
not
us
a
off
song.
the air.
Yeah,
because I'm really curious. So give us like a little secret hint after we sign off.
Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, and you'll get more info as we get there. I'm working with a couple people to develop some of the technical aspects of it right now, and yeah, it's coming along really well.
Nice.
Sounds awesome.
Right. Well, audiences heard it here first. Really excited to see what comes out. And again, thank you so much for sharing all of your perspectives on NFTs, on gaming, on the creative space in general, and where you see, this blockchain train going. So thanks so much again, Mike.
Yes, thank
and
you.
hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
All
Bye.
right.